Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for showing up. I greatly appreciate this. I'd like to talk to you this afternoon a little bit about the age of 18 versus the age of 21. My name is Robert Branson, and hopefully you'll get something out of this. I personally am leaning toward the age of 18 being an adult as opposed to being 21. And the reason I want to talk to you about that is because there's a lot of differences out there in the world today. So I want to put some facts into your head about some of the numbers and where we're going with them and what you don't see in those numbers. So, at 18 years of age, you can legally join the military, you can be a juror, you can sit on anything that has to do with determining someone else's life and their fate, right? You can also buy tobacco, you can do all kinds of things. However, when it comes to drinking and or buying a handgun, you have to be 21. Just because there's a higher age limit doesn't necessarily mean that the requirements are better. If you take the world, for instance, there is only 4 other countries other than the US that have a higher age limit than we do of 21 to drink and or buy a handgun. 4. So please keep that in mind. Another thing you want to make sure you are aware of, out of all the other countries, there's only 9 that have them between the age of 18, or 19, I'm sorry, and 21. Now, I've been in the military for over 20 years, and I've been across many oceans, been around the world, and I've seen a lot of countries. So that's where I'm gaining a lot of this experience from. How can one be mature enough to die for their country? How can one be mature enough to vote for the leaders of their country, decide the fate of another human being, but not responsible enough to have the right to protect themselves, and of course to protect their family, or to go out and have a drink if they choose? If we compare that with the other countries, it really and truly doesn't make any sense if you're talking about the difference between that 2 to 3 ages, right? The 19 and 20, possibly even 21, or the 18, if you look at that aspect. Now, I'd like to point out some facts. If you're talking about facts, the ability to legally have a drink or own a gun at 21. I would also like to give you some numbers that aren't necessarily, okay, put out there for the general public to see. And of course, you have to do some digging to find these numbers. Depending on where you find these numbers, depends on how they're turned and the view that you get them from. The Center for Disease and Control and Prevention indicates that 21 years old is a minimum legal drinking age in the United States. Where does that come from? That comes from the federal government. However, they say it has reduced the number of accidents between the 18, 19, and 21-year-olds. Well, I'm going to show you that it necessarily doesn't, and especially when you're talking about fatalities. Since the passing of the national minimum drinking law back in 1984, all states has abided by the 21-year-old drinking age. The main reason they do this is because the federal government says that if you don't, you're not going to receive federal dollars. So please keep that in mind as well. Are they doing it for the right reason? That's what we have to make sure we're aware of. Are they doing it for the right reason? There are 4 nations worldwide, as I mentioned, that have a higher drinking age than we do. Also, the main driving force behind adopting that minimum age, once again, are the federal funds for the highways. That's something we really, truly want to make sure that we are doing this for that reason. Now, raising the minimum drinking age back in 1984 to 21 was only one of 39 different possibilities that were looked at to say, hey, this was going to make it safer for everyone. But this is the one that you really hear about, is that minimum drinking age being raised to 21. If you really look at it, it was done to fight drunk driving. Okay? Now, Americans know that we have a drinking age of 21, minimum drinking age. But do they know the true statistics behind what really goes on behind the scenes with the numbers and the way they're relayed through reports and the media? According to the CDC, statistics for the legal drinking age of 21 has delayed the number of fatalities to 21, 22, and 23, as opposed to the 18, 19, and 20. Sure, the 18, 19, and 20 numbers have gone down, but the 21, 22, and 23 numbers have increased. So, once again, what have they really done here? They've just delayed the fatalities. They haven't eliminated any of the fatalities, they just delayed them for a matter of 3 years, is all they've really done right there. So, now, if we look at a decade before the national drinking age, there was already a decline in the number of fatalities from traffic accidents and drinking and driving. So it's not like they really took that into account. Okay? But now, if you dig deep into those numbers, you will see that they are there. Another number I want to bring to your attention is this alarming number with gun violence. Are guns really the problem? If you look at it logically, it's not the gun that actually does the killing, it's the bullet. So if you break that out even farther, for the bullet to be the culprit, it must be fired from the weapon by a person. The weapon doesn't fire itself. It's not the age of the person firing the weapon, it's the intent behind the person firing the weapon that creates the problem. In a report published by the CDC, there were 2,348 firearm-related homicides in 2016 for the ages of 1 through 20. However, to understand the entire picture, you must break that down into different groups. 60% of the 2,348 homicides were gang-related, and less than 1% happened on a school campus. We always lump everything together and we don't break out those gang-related incidents. Now, the leading cause of suicide for children in 2016 was firearm-related. But what you have to keep in mind, the second leading cause was suffocation at 1,373. And of course, the third was by drowning at 1,350. So it's not really the gun that's the problem, it's the lack of education. There needs to be more education because that's what will help prevent these violent crimes that we face today. In 2016, there were 52 more fatalities from motor vehicle accidents than firearm-related fatalities. In fact, if you look at the cause of death, firearms placed number 8 on the list at 1.6%. Poisoning and drowning, 2 and 3 respectively. There are reports out there that will show you how race plays a role in these numbers. But what they fail to report once again is the Black and Latino deaths are mainly gang-related. So the numbers are skewed once again. This isn't an excuse, it's the facts. Until the numbers are reported in a manner that explains all the facts, there's no true understanding of the problem. Yes, it's true that children are our future, but there needs to be accountability for their actions taken by the individuals, and of course, stop placing the blame where the blame doesn't belong. The blame shouldn't be the age of the person, it should be the mindset of the person. 18 or 21, a person still has the right to drink, a person still has the right, should have the right to own a gun, and of course, whether it's legal or not, they're still going to get a gun if they're under 21, or they're still going to drink when they're under 21. So it's not a matter of age, It's a matter of the mindset of the person. That's it. We're good.
Yes.